All right, my friends, we're gonna be inspired by cave art, and we're gonna be making artwork that shows our hands in negative and positive space. To start, I'm going to put my left hand on the paper. I'm right-handed, so I'm using my right hand to hold the pencil, and I'm gonna go around. When I lift off, I should have what looks like my hand, and there should be a little spot at the bottom that's disconnected. I want you to just go ahead and connect that. Now I'm going to cut out my hand, and I want to really be careful to get those nice curves because I'm going to be using this hand shape in this lesson for a lot of different steps. So I want to make sure that I'm moving the paper and getting a nice clean cut of my hand. Now sometimes when I'm cutting, this kind of paper gets in the way. So what I do is just cut it off. And what's happening is my hands are doing teamwork, okay? So my left hand is steering the paper and my right hand is operating the scissors. Honestly, my left hand does most of the work because it's the hand that's turning and moving the paper. I move the paper much more than I move the scissors. My scissors just kind of stay put and I make nice, clean, long cuts. All right, now I have the outline of my hand. I'm gonna put it onto a larger piece of paper, and I'm gonna start by just tracing it a few different times. So I think I'm gonna trace it right here. I'm using a Sharpie. And I probably wanna do this 3 or 4 times. My Sharpie is starting to run out. If this happens to you, I'd like you to ask me for a new one because you can see my line is really starting to look more gray than it does black. So I'm gonna switch out for a new one. I can turn my hand over the opposite direction. Much better line. Now if you do what I did, do you see how I ran over the side there? I'm just gonna keep tracing, and then when I'm done, I'm gonna go back and kind of connect those spots where I got off my hand a little bit. And around. And you can see, look, right there and right there, I kind of walked right over top of my stencil when I was tracing. All right, and I have room for one more, and I think I want it to be this way. The next step is adding complex patterns. I know you guys are really good at simple patterns like A, B, A, B. In this lesson, I want you to play around with alternating patterns, growing patterns. I want you to do ABC patterns, maybe AABB patterns, all different types of patterns. All right, before I start doing patterns, I'm gonna complete one more step with my stencil, and then I'm done with this stencil. I'm going to create negative space hands. These hands, the space is inside. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna lay my hand stencil down, and I have this squirt bottle filled with diluted paint. I am going to spray right on top of my stencil, like this. And when I lift up, you can see that I have the space around my hand, and it creates that negative space, and that the background is filled with color. In the foreground, my hand itself is just white. Last one. All right, now this stencil's pretty wet and my artwork is ready to dry. Coming up next, a whole lot of patterns. All right guys, now I'm going to add complex patterns in the positive space. These areas here are the positive space. The area that's left white with things around it, that's called negative space. I'm gonna start with a repeating pattern, and when I add my color, I'm gonna turn that into a complex pattern. So I'm doing a zigzag line, and my color choices will turn it into a complex pattern because instead of just alternating 2 colors, maybe I'll alternate 3 or 4, or maybe I'll even do like AAB, red, red, blue, red, red, blue, things like that. For this one, I'm gonna do a line with circles on it. And again, it's gonna look like a really simple pattern right now, but it'll turn complex when I add the color. So each of these hands should have some sort of pattern, and it may look simple for now, but when we add our color, that's when it's gonna start to feel more complicated. So I'll time lapse you while I work on getting them drawn in. I'm gonna start adding color, and this is where my patterns are gonna become more complex. For example, maybe I'll make this one a growing pattern where I do red, blue. And then my second one, I'm going to do red, red, and I can even fill them both at the same time since I am planning on making 2 of them. Red, 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 blue, blue, because that pattern is growing in number. And if you guessed my next time I'm gonna do red, 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 blue, 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 you are right, because this pattern is a growing pattern. So this one would be 3, so this is really showing people how I understand growing patterns as well as how to use good craftsmanship and color neatly. Filling in all the way. Now for my next one, maybe I'll do an ABCD pattern to show you that. So this one would be 1, 2, 3, 4 would be the blue. 1, 2, 3, 4 areas are blue. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this one takes me to the bottom, and I just need a little more red here. All right, for my next one, maybe I'll do like an ABCD pattern. So A, so blue. So they're much more complicated than a regular AB pattern. And you're gonna keep working like that until your work, or your positive, I should say only your positive space is full of color. That means those hands I did in marker. Your negative space hands, the one in the background, those will stay as is. So this is an ABCD pattern. Blue, red, light purple, dark purple. And if you guessed blue comes next, then you, my friend, are correct. I will time lapse you while I work on my color patterns, and then you'll see my finished result. All right, guys, now I have a super cool piece of art. It's kind of like a self-portrait in a way because my hands are a part of me. It shows my knowledge of positive and negative space. So these are negative space, meaning that the blank area is my hand and the negative space is all filled. These are positive space, meaning I filled inside my hands. And you can also see that I understand complex patterns. Great job.